shattered foundations. The vibrations started as they always did, a subtle tremor that Talia might have dismissed as her own exhaustion if she hadn't lived through 17 similar episodes in the past cycle. She pressed her palm against the rough-hewn wall of her hideout, feeling the distinctive rhythmic pattern that preceded a major tectonic shift. "Not again," she whispered, her emerald skin darkening with stress as she hastily gathered her few possessions. 6 minutes. That's all she had before this section of the underground resistance base would become her tomb. Talia's slender fingers, webbed with delicate filaments that glowed faintly orange in the dimness, worked quickly to secure her atmospheric mask. The air on Talaxis had grown increasingly toxic over the past 3 years as the planet's core destabilized, releasing ancient gases from deep beneath the surface. The ruling hegemony blamed environmental terrorists, but every Talaxian knew the truth. Decades of exominium mining had hollowed out their world, and now it was collapsing in on itself. As she secured her survival pack, the small communication device at her wrist pulsed with an incoming message from Commander Jorith, the resistance leader who had become the closest thing to family she had left. "Sector 7 is gone," his gravelly voice reported without preamble. "Hegemony forces have pulled out completely from the southern hemisphere. They're abandoning us, Talia." "They promised evacuation pods for civilians," she argued, though the hollow feeling in her chest told her she already knew the answer. "Promises mean nothing now. Their ships left orbit an hour ago." The ground beneath her feet lurched violently, sending her stumbling into the wall. 4 minutes remained, maybe less. "What about our contingency?" she asked, already moving toward the emergency exit tunnel, the old spaceport in Cartha Valley. "If anyone's still flying anything off this rock, it'll be the smugglers and scavengers. Find a ship, any ship. I'll try to direct survivors your way." The communication cut off as another tremor, stronger than the last, showered dust from the ceiling. Talia ran. Nico Reeves had made a career of bad decisions, but accepting this job on Talaxis was rapidly climbing to the top of his list of regrets. The spaceport, if the crumbling collection of landing pads and rusted hangars deserved such a dignified name, shuddered with each new quake, sending jagged cracks racing across the permacrete. "You said I had 3 days?" he shouted into his comm unit as he raced toward his ship, the Vesper Dawn, a cobbled-together transport vessel that had survived worse situations than this, though not many. "Planet's timeline, not mine," replied Bastion, the broker who'd hired him to extract a valuable mineral sample from the hegemony's abandoned research facility. "Just get the package and get out. Triple payment if you deliver within 12 hours. "Triple payment means nothing if I'm dead," Nico muttered. But he didn't disconnect. Money was money, and he needed it desperately after his last smuggling run had ended with Imperial agents confiscating half his cargo. The ground shifted again, and Nico stumbled, catching himself against the hull of his ship. Looking up, he saw the sky, once famous for its beautiful purple-gold sunsets, now an angry swirl of black and green, toxic clouds illuminated by occasional flashes of unnatural lightning. His ship's systems beeped a warning: atmospheric toxicity, rising to dangerous levels. He had perhaps 2 hours before his ship's filters would be overwhelmed. Get in, get the package, get out. Simple. Nothing was ever simple. The collapse of Tunnel 23 forced Talia to take an unfamiliar route toward the valley. Each new passageway seemed more unstable than the last, and twice she had to backtrack when her path ended in cave-ins. She checked her oxygen levels. The tank was at 62%, enough for several hours if she was careful. When she finally emerged onto the ridge overlooking Cartha Valley, her heart sank. Half the spaceport was already gone, swallowed by a massive fissure that cut across the landing field like a wound. Only 3 ships remained, and as she watched, one fired its engines and lifted shakily into the churning sky. 2 ships left, and dozens of desperate figures converging on them from all directions. Talia began her descent, moving with the natural agility of her species across the unstable terrain. She was halfway down when the ground gave a tremendous heave, and the research facility at the far end of the valley partially collapsed. Strange energy readings flashed across her wrist scanner, readings that matched no natural phenomenon she had ever encountered. As the dust cleared, she spotted a lone figure emerging from the facility, clutching something that glowed with an eerie blue light. A human, moving with the confident grace of someone who knew how to handle himself in dangerous situations. A smuggler, most likely. Someone with a ship. As their eyes met across the distance, the world shook once more. And this time the tremors didn't stop. Reluctant alliance, the journey through Talaxis's decaying underground was a dangerous dance of trust and survival. Talia's knowledge of the resistance tunnels complemented Nico's resourcefulness, though neither admitted it openly. The northern passage collapsed last week, Talia explained, her luminescent skin providing just enough light to navigate the darkness. We'll have to take the maintenance shafts. Nico clutched the mysterious blue artifact, its glow pulsing in rhythm with the planet's tremors. This thing is getting hotter. Whatever it is, the hegemony valued it enough to leave guards behind when they evacuated everyone else. The hegemony never valued lives, only power, Talia replied bitterly. My sister worked in their laboratories. She discovered something about the mining operations. They silenced her. An uncomfortable silence fell between them as they squeezed through a narrow fissure. The ground shuddered continuously now, small stones raining from the ceiling. I'm sorry about your sister, Nico finally said. I lost someone too, my brother. He believed in causes like your resistance. I chose survival instead. And yet here you are, on a dying planet, Talia observed with unexpected gentleness. Bad luck, Nico shrugged, but his eyes revealed more. When they reached a junction, Talia's scanner detected dangerous gas levels in their planned route. We need another way. Nico studied the crumbling tunnel network on her device. There, he pointed, to an old mining tunnel. It's risky, but it connects to the emergency evacuation shelter. If anyone's organizing survivors, they'll be there. As they changed course, the blue artifact suddenly flared with blinding intensity. The wall beside them cracked open, revealing a hidden passage carved with ancient symbols neither recognized. That's not on any map, Talia whispered. No, Nico agreed, staring at the artifact in his hand with new respect and fear. But I think it wants us to go this way. Their eyes met in the ethereal blue glow, mutual distrust gradually giving way to something neither had anticipated: hope. The sanctuary's secret. The hidden passage led Talia and Nico deeper than either had ventured before, the walls transitioning from rough-hewn tunnels to something altogether different, smooth, almost organic surfaces etched with spiraling patterns. That seemed to respond to their presence. The blue artifact in Nico's hand pulsed with increasing intensity, casting eerie shadows as they descended. These aren't Talaxian markings, Talia murmured, running her webbed fingers over a series of interconnected circles. And they're not hegemony either. They look older. Much older, Nico agreed, his voice hushed with reluctant awe. I've smuggled artifacts from a dozen systems, but I've never seen writing like this. After what seemed like hours of careful descent, the narrow passage widened suddenly into a vast chamber that defied all explanation. The ceiling arched hundreds of meters overhead, embedded with crystalline formations that mimicked a starfield. At the center stood a massive structure, part machine, part crystal, pulsing with the same blue energy as the artifact. It's a ship, Talia gasped, her emerald skin reflecting the azure light. Or some kind of escape pod. Nico approached cautiously, the artifact now vibrating in his hand. Not just any ship. Look at the design. It's ancient. But the technology. He shook his head in disbelief. This predates both our civilizations. As they circled the structure, they discovered a control interface. When Talia placed her hand near it, the system activated, projecting holographic images that filled the chamber, showing Talaxis in its primordial state, then depicting the arrival of beings neither human nor Talaxian. The first ones, Talia whispered, recalling childhood myths. We thought they were legends. The hologram shifted to show massive machines boring into the planet's surface, extracting a luminous blue substance, the same energy that powered the artifact. They were mining the planet's core, Nico realized, but not for resources, for energy, fuel. The projection continued its grim narrative, showing how the extraction had begun destabilizing the planetary core thousands of years ago, a process so gradual that it went unnoticed until recent decades when the hegemony's aggressive mining accelerated the collapse. The hegemony knew, Talia's voice hardened with rage. They knew the planet was dying because of their mining, and they kept it secret while preparing their own escape. Nico studied the strange vessel. This sanctuary wasn't built by the first ones to escape, he said slowly. I think it was built as atonement, left behind to save whoever remained when the inevitable happened. A violent tremor shook the chamber, dislodging crystal fragments from the ceiling. The planet's death was accelerating. Can it save us? Talia asked, hope and skepticism warring in her voice. Nico placed the artifact into a receptacle on the control panel. It fit perfectly, and the entire chamber hummed with sudden energy. More holographic displays activated, showing a navigational chart and what appeared to be launch sequences. It might save some of us, he said grimly, scanning the interface, but not everyone. The system's asking for genetic samples to activate the launch protocol. Talia's shoulders tensed. Of course, the Talaxians who deserve to live selected by some ancient algorithm. Not exactly, Nico frowned, deciphering the alien script. It's not looking for the best specimens. It's looking for diversity, maximum genetic variation. It wants to preserve as much of the planet's life as possible. Another earthquake, stronger than before, knocked them both to their knees. Through the chamber's crystal ceiling, they could see new fissures forming in the rock above. How long? Talia asked, steadying herself against the ancient vessel. Nico checked his atmospheric readings. Hours, maybe less. We need to bring people here, but we can't save everyone in the evacuation shelters. Then we choose those who can help others rebuild, Talia said with sudden clarity. Not the powerful or privileged. Scientists, farmers, teachers, healers. Nico nodded slowly, his cynicism warring with newfound purpose. The artifact is the key. It opens the sanctuary and activates the ship. I was hired to steal it, not to save lives. Their eyes met in the blue glow, the weight of impossible choices hanging between them. What happens when your employer discovers you've failed? Talia asked softly. Nico's laugh was bitter. Probably put a bounty on my head. But he'll have to find me first. Another tremor, the most violent yet, sent cracks racing through the chamber walls. A support column collapsed nearby, nearly crushing them. We don't have time for a perfect plan, Nico said urgently. The northern evacuation shelter is closest. We bring back who we can, while we can. Talia hesitated, then made her decision. She activated her communication device, sending coordinates to Commander Jorith. I'm trusting you, human, she said, the words carrying more weight than either expected. Don't make me regret it. As they raced back toward the surface, neither voiced the impossible moral calculations ahead. Who would live? Who would be left behind? And whether their newfound alliance could withstand such terrible choices. Behind them, the ancient sanctuary continued its activation sequence, preparing for its final purpose after millennia of patient waiting. Race against collapse. The journey back to the northern shelter was a gauntlet of collapsing tunnels and toxic gas pockets. Twice they had to detour through maintenance shafts so narrow that Nico's shoulders scraped against corroded metal, and once they outran a flood of superheated water that burst through a fractured cooling pipe. We need to hurry, Talia gasped as they emerged onto a ledge overlooking the shelter. A reinforced dome already showing structural damage from repeated tremors. The atmosphere is degrading faster than predicted. Her scanner flashed warning signals. Oxygen levels planet-wide had dropped 12% in the last hour alone. The end was accelerating. Nico surveyed the scene below. Hundreds of survivors huddled in groups, their faces masks of exhaustion and fear. Hegemony guards still maintained a perimeter, though their once crisp uniforms were now tattered and their authority clearly waning. Your commander, is he down there? Nico asked. Jorith acknowledged my transmission, Talia replied, her eyes scanning the crowd. He should be... She stopped abruptly, her posture stiffening. There, by the eastern entrance. But he's not alone. Nico followed her gaze and cursed under his breath. Standing beside the resistance commander was a tall figure, in the distinctive black uniform of Hegemony Intelligence. Director Ven, Talia hissed, her skin darkening with anger. The one who ordered the mining to continue even after the first major collapses, the one who... She stopped, emotion choking her words. The one who silenced your sister. Nico finished quietly. Talia's hand moved to the energy pistol at her hip. I should end him now. And alert every guard to our presence, Nico countered, placing his hand gently but firmly over hers. We can't save everyone, remember? We need to be strategic. The moment of tension stretched between them, then Talia exhaled slowly. You're right, but why is Jorith speaking with him? Before Nico could respond, his communication device vibrated. He activated it cautiously. Reeves, where's my package? The voice belonged to Bastion, his employer. My sensors show you haven't left the planet and time is running out. Slight complication, Nico replied, watching Talia's face harden at his words. The package is integrated with something bigger, something that could save lives. A harsh laugh crackled through the device. I don't pay you to save lives, Reeves. I pay you to deliver. The client wants that artifact intact, and they're willing to triple the fee again. Who's the client? Nico demanded. A pause. Hegemony Intelligence, Director Ven specifically. Talia's eyes widened, connections forming rapidly. They know, she whispered. They've always known about the sanctuary. The ground beneath them shuddered violently, sending rocks tumbling down toward the shelter. Warning sirens wailed as a massive fissure opened on the far side of the dome, swallowing several buildings. I need to get down there, Talia said urgently. If Ven is manipulating, Jorith, we go together, Nico insisted. The artifact's still our leverage. They descended rapidly, using the chaos of the new damage to slip past the guard perimeter. As they approached the eastern entrance, they could hear raised voices, Jorith and Ven in heated argument. Your resistance has a communication network. That reaches all the remaining shelters, Ven was saying. Tell your people to look for the artifact and the human smuggler. In exchange, I can offer your senior officers space on the last evacuation vessel, while abandoning everyone else, Jorith countered. That's not a bargain I can make. It's not a bargain, Commander. It's your only option for survival. Talia stepped forward, Nico close behind her. There's another option, she announced. Both men turned, surprise quickly replaced by calculation on Ven's aristocratic features. Operative Talia, he said smoothly, still alive despite our best efforts. And you've brought us the thief and the artifact. Excellent. We've found a way off this planet, Talia continued, ignoring him. An ancient vessel, left by the first ones. It can save hundreds, maybe thousands. Jorith's weathered face showed cautious hope, but Ven merely smiled. The sanctuary, he said. Yes, we know all about it. Why do you think we wanted the artifact recovered? It's the key to the most advanced technology ever discovered on Talaxis. You knew the planet was dying and kept it secret, Nico accused. You could have evacuated everyone. Resources are finite. Ven shrugged. Difficult choices must be made. Now hand over the artifact. A squad of guards moved to surround them, weapons raised. The sanctuary vessel requires genetic diversity to function, Talia said quickly. It won't launch for hegemony elites alone. It needs representatives from all Talaxian biological lineages, including subspecies the hegemony considers inferior. Ven's expression darkened. Then we'll force its compliance. You can try, Nico said coldly. But the artifact responds to intent. I've seen it. It was left as atonement, not as an escape for those who repeated the first one's mistakes. Another violent, Tremor interrupted them, more severe than any before. The shelter's superstructure groaned ominously, and emergency lights flashed throughout the dome. A voice over the public address system announced that complete structural failure was imminent. "We're out of time," Jorith said grimly. "Director, your guards can either help evacuate these people to the sanctuary or they can die here with you." For a tense moment it seemed Ven would order his men to open fire. Then calculation returned to his eyes. Very well. A temporary alliance for survival's sake. As the evacuation began, people streaming toward the tunnels that would lead to the sanctuary, Talia pulled Nico aside. "I don't trust him," she whispered. "The moment we reach the sanctuary, he'll try to seize control." "I know," Nico replied. "But we need his guards to help manage the evacuation." He hesitated, then added quietly, "I've been thinking about the sanctuary's requirements. It needs diversity, not just genetic, but cultural, philosophical. It needs both your resistance fighters and, yes, even some hegemony loyalists if your civilization is to have any chance of rebuilding." Talia's expression was torn between pragmatism and deep-seated anger. "Some crimes can't be forgiven." "I'm not talking about forgiveness," Nico said. "I'm talking about survival, about the future." Before she could respond, the shelter's main support beam cracked with a sound like thunder. The evacuation became a desperate race, people streaming toward the tunnels as sections of the ceiling began to collapse. In the chaos, Nico noticed Director Ven speaking urgently into a communication device of his own, his eyes fixed on the artifact that now hung at Nico's belt. "Whatever happens at the sanctuary," Nico told Talia as they helped guide a group of frightened children toward the escape route, "we can't let Ven get control of the artifact. The sanctuary has to be for everyone, or it's for no one." The ground heaved beneath them one final time, and the northern section of the dome gave way completely. As they ran for the tunnels, Talia's hand found Nico's in the darkness, their fingers intertwining in silent promise. Behind them, the shelter, and, all those too slow or too weak to escape, vanished as the planet of Talaxis entered its final death throes. Beyond the ashes, the ancient vessel shuddered as Talaxis tore itself apart. Through crystal viewports, Talia and Nico watched their world fracture into a billion glittering fragments, a terrible beauty in its final moments. "It's really gone," Talia whispered, her emerald skin pale with grief. In the sanctuary's central chamber, 317 survivors, all that could be saved, huddled together regardless of former allegiances. The vessel had accepted their genetic diversity, just as the ancient programming demanded. Director Ven's final betrayal had come as expected, an attempt to seize the artifact and override the sanctuary's protocols. But the first ones had built safeguards even he couldn't circumvent. When he tried to force the vessel to accept only his chosen few, the artifact had responded with a blinding flash, leaving him unconscious but alive. "Where will we go?" asked a small Talaxian child, her luminescent fingers clutching Nico's sleeve. Commander Jorith studied the navigation systems. "The vessel has a preset course. A world the first ones prepared similar to Talaxis before the mining began." "A second chance," Nico said quietly, standing beside Talia as the sanctuary vessel accelerated away from the planetary debris field. "For all of you." Talia turned to him, surprise in her iridescent eyes. "You're not staying?" Nico smiled sadly. "I'm human. The vessel accepted me as pilot because of the artifact, but your new world is for Talaxians. The genetic protocols say otherwise," Jorith interrupted, examining the console. "Maximum diversity includes cross-species variation. The sanctuary wants you to stay, human." Talia's hand found Nico's, her touch warmer than before. "I want you to stay too." As the vessel entered a shimmering portal of blue energy, the same energy that had powered the artifact, Nico felt the weight of his past lifting. No more running, no more survival at any cost. "A new world," he said, squeezing Talia's hand as stars streaked past the viewports. "We build it together this time. No hegemony, no outcasts." The last fragments of Talaxis vanished behind them as the sanctuary vessel carried its precious cargo of survivors toward a distant horizon, and the promise of redemption that transcended the boundaries of their species.